Okay. Now, the next part here is some more terminology. And it's stuff terminology that people usually get mixed up with. So you know that we have Dhamma, Fatha, and Kasra as the harakat. We also have a sakin, which is not a harakat, but it's a sakin. So if something can't have a Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra on there, it's going to have a sakin. So it's either going to have one of those signs on there. Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra, or sakin. Okay, or Zabar, Zair, Pesh, if you've learned it from that way, and a sakin. Now, Halatul Raf, there might be three or four. There's three definitely, maybe a fourth one. Halatul Raf, Halatul Nasab, and Halatul Jar. There's three things that you need to know. Halat means a state, okay? And a Raf, there's linguistically means something else. It means to raise, okay? A Raf means to raise. But Halatul Raf is when a word is in the state of getting a Dhamma. Remember this word here, it's in the state of getting a Dhamma. Whether it's one or two Dhamma is not a problem, but it's in the state of getting a Dhamma, which means it doesn't necessarily mean it gets a Dhamma, but it's in the state of getting a Dhamma. It's usually shown by an apparent Dhamma, but sometimes other signs are also used. Al-Mubtada is one example of a word in Halatul Raf. So when we take the example Al-Qalamu Maksurun, which we know is Mubtada Khabar, Al-Qalamu is the Mubtada, and it ends in a Dhamma. The Dhamma is the sign of Raf. The Dhamma is the sign of Raf, and it is showing us that this word Al-Qalam is in Halatul Raf. It's in the state of getting a Dhamma. So if it can take the Dhamma, we give it a Dhamma. Apologies. And if it can't take a Dhamma, it will not get a Dhamma. Now, a really good example for this is right at the start of the book. Hada baytun, hada masjidun, hada kamisun, and all of those kind of words and sentences. So if we look at that, it's actually mubtada khabar. Hada, this. So whatever we're talking about. So hada kitabun. This, hada kitabun, this is a book. So hada kitabun. The word kitab is the khabar. Hada, this is a mubtada. We're talking about the book. So this is a book. Hada mubtada, kitabun is the khabar. But mubtada is in halatul raf. Mubtada is always in halatul raf. We haven't read that yet, but I'm telling you, mubtada is always in halatul raf. So hada is in halatul raf, but you don't see a dhamma on hada. Similarly, you don't see a dhamma on dhalika. Similarly, you don't see a dhamma on huwa. So there's all of these words which can come as a mubtada. They are in halatul raf. They are in the state of getting a dhamma. So if they can accept the dhamma, they would have. But there are some words which just can't accept the dhamma. Why they can't accept dhamma? So that's another discussion. So we'll talk about that later. But we're going to accept that there are some words which cannot accept the dhamma. And if they can't accept the dhamma, it doesn't mean that they're not in halatul raf. So they can still be in halatul raf. They can be in the state of getting a dhamma, but they will not be able to take the dhamma. If they can take it, we give it the apparent dhamma. If they can't take it, it won't have a dhamma, but it's still going to be in halatul raf. Okay? I hope that made sense. So guys, give me a yes or a no, a thumbs up or something, give me something like that in the chat area if this made sense. Okay. So halatul raf, the state of getting a dhamma, if a word can take a dhamma, it'll get it if it's in halatul raf. And if it can't take a dhamma, it won't get the dhamma, but it'll still be in halatul raf. Okay. So we're recognizing where it comes. A thumbs up, a yes, understood, anything like that. Okay. Dr. Franzab, Jazakallah. Similarly, now we have halatul nasab. Halatul nasab doesn't mean a fatha, but it means that when the word is in the state of getting a fatha, whether it's one or two. Now you know that we'll get one fatha when you have alif lam. We'll get two fathas when there's no alif lam. It's usually shown by an apparent fatha, but sometimes other signs are also used. Right, so that's fine. We just want to leave it to that level so far, that there are other signs. Similarly, we have halatul jar. This is when a word is in the state of getting a kasra. Again, one or two. It's usually shown by an apparent kasra, but sometimes other signs are also used. And a good example of halatul jar is mudaf ilay. It's one example of halatul jar. Okay, so baytu zaydin, Zayd's house. So look at the word Zayd. Zayd has got two kasras. Zayd is mudaf ilay, and mudaf ilay is always in halatul jar. Mudaf ilayh is always in halatul jar. Right? Can you guys think of anything else which is in halatul jar? We've covered halatul jar quite a bit. So can you think of something which is in halatul jar for me? Just give me an example. Write in English for me. Something in halatul, an example of something in halatul jar, apart from baytu zaydin. Okay, brilliant, mashallah. Exactly, that's what I was looking for. Words which have fi or min, okay, which come after fi, min, and those kind of words. Okay, so the huruful jar, those are those. So even the name huruful jar, those words which put the next word in halatul jar are called huruful jar. So fi, min, ila, ala, and all of these words, they give the next two words a kasra. More specific than saying kasra, they put it in halatul jar. So sometimes you might even see fi, min, ala, and all of these words, and the word after doesn't get a kasra. It's in the state of kasra. It should have got a kasra, but it might be one of those words which doesn't accept a kasra. Now, this sounds like there's loads of words and loads of types you're gonna have to learn. It's not that hard. It's just when you get when you get to see them, it makes it more better. The thing with this kind of revision guide that we've done, alhamdulillah, we've had to be very careful that we're not breaking any rules, and at the same time we can simplify it as much as possible. So we don't want to break any rules. If somebody else picks up and says, "Oh, look, these guys at Shine, they don't know what they're talking about. They're writing all these fake rules down," we write it in a different way because we're trying to, rather than get people stuck on the nitty-gritties, we just want you to be able to move forward with things. And finally, you have something called halatul jazm. So this is when a word is in the state of getting a sakin. It is usually shown by an apparent sakin, but sometimes other signs are also used. Now, why do you guys think that we've got an example for halatul raf? There's no example for halatul nasab yet here. And then there's an example for halatul jar, and then there's no example for halatul jazm. Anybody know why we've given examples for two and not for two? Examples for two of them, not for two of them. Why have we given examples? Okay, yeah, that's correct. Okay, well, I thought we hadn't covered the two, but we have covered halatul nasab, just not in any lengthy detail. So, for example, amam al masjid. Remember those words, amam, khalf, tahat. We have covered them. They're actually in halatul nasab. That's why they get the fatha. They get the apparent fatha. So they're in halatul nasab as well. But we've not covered them in any specific detail. That comes more in book 2, Halatul Nasab. Halatul Jazm, we haven't covered it till now. Again, that will come inshallah in book 2. So if you want to throw in where it says Halatul Nasab, throw in your own, annotate onto it, Amam al-Masjid, then put that down there, please, inshallah. And finally, this is where we said the mubtada can consist of more than one word. For example, mudaf ilayh. So we've got Baytul Mudarrisi Ba'idun, which means the teacher's house is far. So Baytul Mudarris, that is the mubtada, right? The mudaf ilayh there is the mubtada, and Ba'idun is the khabar. So we've got two words which make the mubtada and only one word which makes the khabar. You'll also get two words can be mubtada and two words can be khabar. So we could have said, for example, Baytul Mudarrisi Amam al Masjidi, right? The teacher's house is in front of the mosque or is opposite the mosque. So again, then we've got two words for mubtada, two words for khabar, right? The words join and become mubtada, or join and become khabar. So that works as well. And now so we've already covered that one. We've been over that before, right? And this point here, this is a really important last 2 points here. The mubtada will either be a noun or a pronoun. This is why a sentence made up of mubtada and khabar is known as al-jumlatul ismiyatu. Lots of technical terms here, guys, so don't get thrown off by them. Al-jumla means the sentence. Ismiya, it comes from the word ism, which means noun. Ism means noun, okay, a name of something. And that's where we've got al-ismiya. It means the nominal sentence, the sentence which begins with a noun. Now, up to this stage in the book, most of the sentences that we have covered, in practically all of them, are nominal sentences, are mubtada khabar. That's everything. So hadha baytun, hadha masjidun, dhalika babun, al-waladu jalisun. Everything we've done so far, ana min ayna anta, ana min al-yaban, huwa min as-sin, huwa min al-hind. Those are all nominal sentences. Okay, so nothing, everything that we've seen so far, the vast majority, 99.9% maybe, is al jumlatul ismiya. However, there is another type of sentence which doesn't begin with mubtada and khabar. So you may have been led at the start of up to now to believe that every sentence has mubtada and khabar, because every sentence will have something to start with, and every sentence will have, you'll be saying something about whatever you're talking about. So it seems so far as every sentence is going to have mubtada khabar, and there's just a slight difference in the Arabic language. You have some type of sentences which are the nominal sentence. So you will only call it mubtada and khabar when it begins with a noun. So every sentence is practically mubtada khabar that we've done so far. However, if the sentence begins with a fail, meaning a verb, then the sentence is known as not al-jumlatul ismiya, but al-jumlatul fi'liya. Not the nominal sentence, but now the verbal sentence. Now, again, there's several parts to this, and the only one that we've covered so far is the verb itself. So I actually saw that as I was flicking through this. It's on page 24. You don't need to go to this right now. It's on page 24. It's in chapter 4. Fourth page in chapter 4. It's where he's saying about minal bayti and ilal masjidi. So there's one sentence here. It says, Aina Abbasun, where is Abbas? And Muhammad answers and he says, Kharaja, he's left. He has left, he is gone, right? So Kharaja al-mudarrisu min al-ghurfa, what we have in front of us. Kharaja is the fail, it's the verb. And then here, al-mudarris is the person that's done the verb. Min al-ghurfa is where he's gone from. So he has left the classroom. So whether we just said kharaja or whether we add in all this extra stuff here, this is now going to be called a verbal sentence. It's not going to be called al-mubtada and al-khabar. Although we're starting with a word and then we're talking about whatever, it's not going to be called al-mubtada and khabar. Okay? It's going to be called and it's not going to be called al-jumlatul ismiya. So if you have mubtada khabar, if you have a nominal sentence, if the word you start with is a noun, it's going to be called al-jumlatul ismiya, and it's going to consist of two parts, not necessarily two words, but two parts. One part is the mubtada, the other part is the khabar. And if it doesn't begin with a noun and it begins with a verb instead, then it's no longer going to have mubtada khabar. It's going to have other parts in there, which we're not going to touch right now, but all we know is that it's going to be a verbal sentence, not a nominal sentence. So this was the main crucial point to make there. I hope that is, I hope that's okay with everybody. I hope nobody's stuck on that. Until there, is everybody okay? Alhamdulillah, we've actually done well for this session. We finished it in decent time. A couple of extra points that you can have a look at, guys. So just feel free to look through the booklet. We don't want to read everything. I'll look at that last sheet of 11D in just a second before we finish off. 11E is more about translating from English to Arabic, so do give this a go. There is a session on that. So give this a go before you check the answers, and these answers should be in the videos as well, inshallah. That takes us to question lesson 12, which is next week's stuff, inshallah. When we said mubtada khabar, and we know that both parts, like here, at-talibu jalisun. So we got dhamma here and two dhammas here. Ana talibun. So khabar is ending in two dhammas. Okay, the khabar ends in two dhammas. What if we have something like this and say ar-rajulu fil masjidi? So ar-rajulu the man. Now, if you look here, we've not got something ending in two dhammas. And, we've got a fi, which is telling us where the man is. We've got al-masjid, which is, again, is the actual place. So fi is telling us he's inside somewhere. Al-masjid is inside the masjid. There was no two dhammas here. So anything which is preceded by harful jar, it will still be considered the khabar for now. So we don't want to go in any more detail. This sentence, because it starts with a noun, it's the first part, not necessarily the first word again. The first part is mubtada. The second part is the khabar. And the khabar is usually going to end in two dhammas, but sometimes you get khabars which have harful jar and then something else. So it's now no longer got the dhammas, but that's still for now going to be called the khabar. So just in case you see this and you start thinking, okay, I thought that was mubtada khabar, where's the two dhammas gone, where's the sakin gone? Okay, so that just follows it's not exactly a different rule, but there's a bit more detail. We don't need to touch that right now. But here you can see it's a nominal sentence, ar-rajulu fil masjid. Look at the next one, huwa mudirun. So huwa means he. So again, it's an ism, it's a noun, it's not a verb. So he is the teacher. He is the principal. So this is the mubtada, this is the khabar. Okay. So pronouns will stay the same. They will not get the apparent dhamma at the beginning. They will come at the start of the sentence. They are the mubtada. They are actually in halatul raf. So you might want to write this note down. It's in this here word here. Put an arrow towards it if you want to. This word is in halatul raf, but it doesn't accept the dhamma. Even here, hadihi talibatun, it's in halatul raf, but it doesn't accept the dhamma. Hada and its similar forms are known as demonstrative pronouns. They too do not change, so they will be considered mubtada at the beginning of the sentence, despite not having an apparent dhamma. And that's all the start sentences that we see. So I hope this session was good for you guys, and inshallah it will have. This is like your very, very first lesson of looking at a bit of grammar. Not too intense, but yeah, there's a lot of technical terms there, so you may want to look over this again. I hope this has proved to be useful to you, inshallah. I have a task, which is to create that little small video for you guys, inshallah. I'll do something like that and send it to you about the two mudaf ilays. Again, if you don't hear from me by like Sunday, inshallah, please do give me another message as a reminder, just so that I don't forget, inshallah. And yeah, hopefully see you all next week. Good luck with the assessment. Inshallah, you'll all do well, pass with flying colors. If you can't make the assessment for next week or something for any reason, please do let me know. But get it over and done with. It's absolutely simple, guys. I don't think it'll take you more than 20-25 minutes. Very simple. Just go on the website, download it, print it out, write on it, take the photos with your phone, send me the photos on WhatsApp or email, whatever you're comfortable with, and inshallah, I can then start marking away. All right, Jazakallah Ahsan for joining us. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.